What's up, everybody? It's the Real Estate Professors back with episode 9. I'm your host, as always, Sen Kim, with my man, Ed, Breaking Windows Park. Why don't you let them know what we're getting into today?
Yes, Sen, we have a very special episode today. We're going to be talking about how to do a pro forma for a commercial property, in particular, a multifamily found in Houston, Texas.
Nice. But before we do that, you know the drill. You know what to do. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Click notifications on your way in. You ready to do this?
Let's go.
Let's get it. Okay. All right, folks. Today we are going to be discussing a property located in Houston, Texas. We found this property on LoopNet. If you'd like to follow along with us there, Ed will post the actual link for you as we're talking about this if you do not want to do that. The property address is 2501 Truxillo Street. It's in Houston, Texas, as we mentioned before. The revenue numbers on this, the purchase price on the property, it's listed for $780,000. Let's get into that first and foremost. So our revenue numbers are going to come in. It actually looks lucrative initially in the beginning. So it's $85,000 and $200. $85,200 on the rental income side. Why don't you break that down as far as how that looks on the rents?
Yeah, so the base rental income is basically 100% occupied, full rent. So most of these apartment complexes will provide some sort of rent roll. The rent roll ranges from the least amount all the way to the most. So for this one, it's $850 to $1,450. So that's a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom. It also has a commercial or office space for about $600. So all of it per month is about $7,100 fully leased out, and that's how we get up to that number of $85,200.
So the next line item we like to look at on these pro formas is vacancy. You always have to factor in about a 10% vacancy on your cost breakdown, because really you want that number, because you're not always, like, we can be optimistic all we want, but realistically that you will have a certain amount of vacancies. It may not be as high as 10% throughout the year, but you also want to factor that in when you're taking that to the bank, and also like what realistic actual net number is going to be on the property. So we did a basic 10% vacancy, as we like to do, and that comes out to $8,520 on the property, because our rent rolls are $85,200. So just deducting 10% off of that, we're going to hop right into what an expense reimbursement is. Why don't you kind of walk them through that?
Yeah, so the expense reimbursement is basically when the landlord pays for utilities or any other like property taxes or insurance up front, and where the tenant has to reimburse. So for a multifamily, usually that's going to be like water, gas, trash,
Yep.
electricity. So yeah, so it's almost as a wash, but in regards to the pro forma, we're going to put it up as the gross revenue, and that's how you can see it at that 7,200 mark.
Nice. Also, another very important thing when you're looking at these pro formas is obviously your expenses. And so one of the biggest expenses on these types of properties is the property management fee. The broker or the agent on this said property is listed the management fee to be $6,800.16 for the year. Why don't you kind of break down what that process is?
Yeah, so for property management, a conservative amount is about 8% to 10%. Realistically, this is a smaller unit, so you would save money self-managing. However, if you were to outsource it out to maybe a broker or a real estate agent who wants to do like a side job of managing your property, realistically, you could get around 8 to 10%. So we're going to try to save some money and do an 8% of the gross rent annually.
And it's about an average number as well. Some people take a little bit less. Like on the larger multifamilies, they'll take 6%. It's going to be closer to 10% on the smaller unit sizes, because it's just more of a hassle for them to micromanage the smaller ones versus the larger units. Let's hop into the next line item that we have, and that's just the total overall operating expenses. Why don't you kind of break down on this property what the total operating expenses are for them?
Yeah, so the total operating expenses is about $14,000. Again, that includes repairs, any sort of expense, just maintaining the property from day to day. And also we added in the utilities. So we're assuming that we're going to pay up front the water, electricity, cable, whatnot, and then the tenants are going to reimburse us as seen in the revenue portion. So this one was approximately operating expenses, again, anywhere from 8 to 10%. And then we add on the utilities and all the other fees that we're going to pay up front for the tenant.
Very nice. So the next line item on the expense list is property taxes. This is pretty straightforward. Everybody can understand this. It's just whatever the building is appraised at. So on this property, the property taxes came out to $6,056. I don't think we need to get into explaining what that is for you guys. I think that's pretty self-explanatory there. So we're gonna just hop right into the bottom line number on this, or bottom next subject line number on this expense report is that it's the CapEx number. Why don't you explain to them what a CapEx number is?
Yeah, so the CapEx number for this property is around 6,800, again, 8%. CapEx covers anything that the majority of the tenants or all the tenants share, such as like a roof, elevator, air conditioning, HVAC system, plumbing, things that are major structural things that are part of the building that may need to be replaced due to wear and tear or something like an accident or incident happening on the site. So usually we want to be conservative. If you want to be conservative, 10%. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive, then you could shoot down to 7, 8%. But we try to be around that 10% mark.
That's about average. So we're kind of basically we've broken down all the basics for it. We've given you the mainline revenue, we've given you the purchase price, we've given you the expenses. These are all the things. It's like step by step, kind of like what you need to look for when you are looking at a pro forma. And then we're going to come down to the effective gross rent. Why don't you let them know what the effective gross rent is on this property?
Yeah, so the effective gross rent is basically taking your base rental income, adding in your vacancy, which is basically minus 8,500, and then adding the expense reimbursement. So that comes out to 83,000 and change. And then for the expenses, you basically add up all the expenses, the property management fees, operating expenses, property taxes and CapEx, all the costs of running the building annually. That comes out to about 33,000 and change.
So what's the total NOI then? So we're going to do the effective gross rent minus the total expenses, and then what does that come out to?
So we estimate this to be at a little over 50,000, so 50,176.
So that'll generate what your actual cash flow number is on the property if you purchase this property in cash at $780,000. Debt service is also going to be a line item that they will never actually provide for you because everyone's debt service is a little bit different. Everyone's rates are different. How much you put down is different. So based on that, your debt service or your payment amount on your mortgage on your property is going to be different for everybody. Some people may 1031 and pay full on cash for it. Some people may take 25% down. And current market rates on a commercial loan, not to scare you guys, but it's well over the regular mortgage rates. It's hovering around 10.5% on commercial loans as I'm shopping them currently myself. So we've actually factored in the debt service, even though we don't have it on our line items printed out for you guys. But the debt service is going to be around $63,000 on this property if we're doing about the standard 25% down on the property. So if you're kind of looking at the numbers, the cash flow is obviously $50,000 after all maintenance, all property taxes, all the numbers that we ran through. So if you do a conventionally financed 25-year amortized, even 20-year amortized loan, 25% down standard stuff at a 10% interest rate, it's going to cost you about $63,000 on the debt service. The NOI is being $50,000. So the advertised cap rate was what?
10%.
10%. So they advertised this property at 10%, guys. And so the reason why we're breaking down this property is not to say, hey, look how lucrative this property is, but to make you aware that these brokers, these marketers of properties We'll advertise it as that like these super lucrative deals that are 10% returns on your investment. But really, when we broke it down, it wasn't even a 10% return. It wasn't even a 10 cap. It was actually, what was it?
6.4.
6.43 cap on the property. So it's not even what they advertise isn't what they advertise after you actually analyze and learn how to break down these numbers as we've shown you today. And then you factor in the debt service being around $63,000, and you're at a net loss on the property at a $780 purchase price, right?
So if you're stuck in this situation where it's a negative cash flow, one of the ways you can offset that is by increasing rents. Annually, rents have been increasing around 3.6 to 4% each year. So if you do that, and also your leases will probably have some sort of escalation, it will eventually increase your NOI, which will increase the valuation of your property to basically offset that negative cash flow. So in essence, your negative cash flow that you're paying is going to be offset by the appreciation of your property. So later on, when you dispose of the property, hopefully the cap rate comes down, you're going to end up making that money back. That's the best case scenario. But always you want to be in a situation where you're positive cash flow at all times.
Beware, guys. Do your due diligence. So unless you're going full cash on it, it really doesn't make sense. You're having about a 6.5% return if you're all cash, and you're at a negative $13,000 a year annually if you're doing it financing and the conventional route. So our advice on a property like this, after you break it down, either you get that purchase price way lower, it probably needs to be closer to $600,000 or $550,000 for you to make a single dollar on this property. But that's not why we got into this property. Our goal today was to show you that don't be fooled by the numbers that they give you. Make sure you do your own due diligence. We hope that you've learned a little bit through our process on how to break down each line item on the pro forma. So if you found this video helpful, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. Turn on those notifications for us so that we can keep bringing you these tidbits of information on how to further your real estate career. I'm your host, Sang Kim.
I'm Edward Breaking Windows Park.
That is right, folks. So until next time, we will see you later, guys. Peace out.